Habs prospect Joshua Roy is setting records in the QMJHL playoffs now. We'll be discussing why he truly does have a future with the Montreal Canadiens after this performance on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier, and a reminder before we get into the video to hit subscribe. We are your number one source for Habs news this summer. Come this offseason, Habs prospects, draft, anything like that, this is the spot to be. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now. You won't regret it. Today's topic, Jesse, we're going to spend a lot of time talking a bit about Joshua Roy, a guy that, last year was somewhat highly touted by Habs fans, saying, pretty good numbers in the QMJHL, but, well, is he skilled enough to get to the NHL? We're not sure. Is his skating there? But, Jesse, this season he's been proving everyone wrong, and his most recent performance, as he breaks the franchise record for Sherbrooke's Big Game 2 win, of scoring 6 points in their 8-1 victory. He's riding a 10-game goal streak, having scored 17 goals over that span. He had 5 points in the third period, 3 goals. Joshua Roy is, right now, other than maybe Lane Hutson, one of the most enticing prospects in the Habs system. What are your thoughts on his recent performance, and do you think he will end up being a solid contributor for Montreal?
What I think about his recent performance is that he's coming up clutch once again, which for me is really exciting to see that, he's setting this in the playoffs, that, that long goal-scoring streak as well. So it's telling me that he's ramping it up at the time of the season when they really need him the most. And we've seen this before at the World Juniors, with Connor Bedard, where when it really mattered, he came out to play, and just something like, he's a little bit of a firecracker. Like, he's feisty, but with a lot of skill as well. So it really tends, to make me think that he has a very good future with the Montreal Canadiens. And the reason I feel that way is, he's just coachable. That's what I really like about him. When you take somebody who's skilled, but also very versatile, not afraid to play the physical game, to play with a lot of effort. If you're showing you're coachable on top of that with all those other skills, now I'm saying, okay, hold on for a second. We might have a real good NHL player here, because he's scoring a little bit less than last year, but you can see that his plus or minus is better. You can tell he took the advice from Adam Nicholas, where they wanted him just really improve on that 200-foot game, and he's really doing it right now. So I got really high hopes for him.
Yeah, me too. He's very much a Swiss Army knife type of player, and if you guys haven't watched a lot of Joshua Roy, do yourself a favor, and some highlight reels really don't even do it justice, actually. If you can find a way to watch some clips of these playoff games, I suggest you do it, because when he's on the ice, his ability to just control the game, not only when the puck is on his stick, but when there's a loose puck, or when his team is in, say, the defensive zone or transitioning to offense, his ability, his hockey IQ is off the charts. I see some Sherbrooke fans, people who watch more games than I do, say, they see a loose puck in the corner, and it's like they blink their eyes, and Joshua Roy is right there on the loose puck every time. He rarely makes a bad play. He plays power play, he plays penalty kill, and he's one of the best even strength players. This kind of skill set doesn't come in the NHL very often. I mean, we know Nick Suzuki is a similar kind of guy, I guess, a great 200-foot game. But Joshua Roy, 46 goals in 55 games in the Q this year. His goal scoring similar to last year. Of course, his assists a little less, like you said, Jesse. His point total is a bit less than it was. But he was a plus 69 this year with only 14 penalty minutes, and so far has 18 points in 6 playoff games for Sherbrooke. And that's at least 1 goal in each of those 6 playoff games. And, I'm seeing some people say, Jesse, I want to get your opinion on this. When a guy puts up crazy point totals in the QMJHL or has great point totals in the World Juniors, that doesn't always, the percentage of those players that actually end up going on to be great NHL players is not as high as you might think. Yeah, it can be an indicator, but it's not, the be-all, end-all. However, guys like Joshua Roy, who have a bit of size, who have the IQ, have the physicality, have the defensive ability to go along with that skill, that projects a lot more as a longer-term top 9 kind of guy in the league. Do you feel the same way about him? Because I feel like his floor as a prospect is very, very high.
Absolutely, because I feel like his ceiling is where he's on a line where he's really the goal-to guy, and he's really the goal-scoring threat, because he's shown an amazing shot. And like you've mentioned earlier, Josh, just that great hockey sense to get to the right plays, not only winning those puck battles, but getting to the front of the net, finding those seams, those pockets in the defense to score those amazing goals as well, but we've also seen where he can really help complement another really great player like we saw at the World Juniors. Mm-hmm. Now, we're starting to get really excited as Habs fans, come to think about that. Like, imagine we could put Connor Bedard and Joshua Roy on the same line together. Like, we know they have amazing chemistry, and that type of player that can play with really the best of the world and bring out the best of them, for me, that's saying quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too. And those kind of players always have a place. If you can help elevate some of the best players in the game while you yourself are holding your own, kind of providing kind of what they said at the beginning of the year, right? With Kirby Dach, with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield, said that third guy, Kirby Dach, as long as he's getting to his spots, he's making the plays to let the other two kind of facilitate the offense, let the stars do what they need to do, it can work well. And that was one of the best lines in the NHL in the early season when those three guys were clicking. And I can totally see Joshua Roy being that kind of player to really complement other good players. We must say, Jesse, though, that the one caveat with Joshua Roy's game is that his skating is maybe not where you'd want it to be for an NHL caliber player. Not to say that his skating would be completely out of place in the NHL. However, to elevate him to that next level, he'll need to pick up some speed. He'll need to be a bit better on his edges. He gets hit quite a bit, loses balance on hits quite a bit. So that's something he'll need to do. But if you look at guys like Alex Tuch, Braden Point as some examples of guys who came in with skating as a weakness, it's definitely not impossible to fix.
No, it's true. But I think that's a great assessment that'll be the difference between him being a bottom six or a top six player, because I think it's one of those where he can really go either way. Like, he has so much potential, but you're right, with the game being as quick as it is right now, if he's not able to get that sorted, for sure he's going to have some weaknesses in his game that's going to kind of drive him a little bit further down the lineup. But, with all the great coaching that is available to him at this point in time, with just his ability to score goals, but just also to play the game the right way. I think that plus or minus, he's still showing that he can still adapt. He can still be effective on his team in just the best possible ways, even without maybe skating be his best strength. So I look for him to continue that. But for me, just whenever I see a player that is open to taking advice, that's open to feedback, and then has that skill, for me, that's just a really good sign.
I agree, because it's the kind of player that will take the advice, will work hard to implement those, or to make those fixes to their weaknesses to help take them to the next level. You can tell he's passionate about the game, he wants to learn, and you're right, that's what makes an exciting prospect. I'm going to get your opinion real quick. Do you think he'll be on the Habs next year, or do you think he might stay a year in Laval, be on the Habs in 2 years? There's a lot of forwards, but if he keeps proving himself in training camp, who knows?
It's a great question, and we've seen it in the past where players were not expecting to make it, like Xhekaj, where they have. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Joshua Roy did the same thing, just due to the nature of the player. He's this type of tenacious, feisty, I don't want to say Gallagher, but he's the type of player that plays with the same type of way, but intelligently as well, right? As you've kind of mentioned before in your analysis of the player. So I feel like that's a hard player sometimes to boot out. I feel like Marty St. Louis gonna really like that type of player. He's gonna go in guns blazing, and he's gonna say, "This is my spot," till somebody takes it from me. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Can't wait to see it. One more thing just to touch on at the end of the video, we spoke a little bit about Laval, a little transition. For those of you who want to follow the AHL playoffs, now that the NHL season for Montreal at least is finished, and as the NHL moves into the playoffs, the Laval Rocket have clinched a playoff spot, as we mentioned in our last video. But the big news today, they don't know who they're going to play, but they know it's going to be full on Wednesday night. Game 1 of round 1 is in Laval on Wednesday night. Now, AHL playoffs are weird, Jesse. This is sort of a play-in series. It's a best-of-3 play-in series, and the winner goes on to play the Toronto Marlies in the real first round of the playoffs, if you can kind of call it that. Kind of similar to what the NHL did in the COVID year. But yeah, so what they do, even though it's a best-of-3 series, the lower seed, which Laval is, the Game 1 is at the lower seeds arena, and then game 2 and 3, game 3 of course if necessary, both at the higher seeds arena. So regardless, game 1's going to be in Laval, and the fact that they sold this out in 30 minutes just shows me how much care, how much passion Habs fans have for the whole system, top to bottom.
Yeah, we're still hungry for hockey for sure, and why not when you're going to see so many what I would call future NHL players on that team as well. And just so much great momentum, kind of battling just to make it there. And what a great way for the fans just to say thank you now that they have.
Yeah, it's really cool, and if you guys want to tune into some of those, I'm not sure where you can find streaming links, but I'll be wanting to watch some. See our boys RHP, Jesse Ullinen, someone like Emil Heineman, who has been tearing things up, Cayden, Primeau, and net. There's a lot of things to watch, a lot of Habs prospects on that team, but in the meantime, that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 5,000 subs. I think we just crossed, or we're just about to cross 4,700, only a few hundred away from 5K. It's a big goal, and we hope you guys can help us reach it. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.